The world contains many famous waterways with long histories attached to them. Nevertheless, impressive technological progress has not meant that they have passed out of use. Waterways are still of importance to transport, and wherever it is possible, water transport is economic even today. The best-known water transport route in Finland is the Saimaan Canal. Ever since 1856, it has provided a connection between the labyrinth of lakes in eastern Finland and the Gulf of Finland, and from there on to the seven seas. The Saimaan Canal, waterway link. Produced for the National Board of Public Roads and Waterways in Finland by Suomi Filmi Oy. As early as in the 16th century, endeavours were made to dig a canal between Saimaa, the largest lake in Finland, and the sea. It took hundreds of years for the dream to come true. It took 11 years to construct the canal with its 28 locks of wood and stone. The construction cost exceeded the state budget for the year, but the investment was a sound one. During the 1930s, a great deal of modernization work was done. Locks were removed to speed up the traffic. And then the canal was ruined by war. Large sections of it came behind the new frontier. Hostilities between Finland and the Soviet Union came to an end in 1944. The Saimaan Canal was numbered among the victims of war. It had become a cripple. But life went on. As early as in 1946, discussions were held between Finland and the Soviet Union on the use of the canal. The country had thrown itself wholeheartedly into reconstruction work. One matter of great urgency was that of timber transport in the southeast parts of the country. The lack of a canal entailed an enormous increase in overland transport. But the canal was not forgotten, despite the long silence which followed the first negotiations. The air was charged with expectation. The old canal, which had been opened in 1856, was 36 miles in length. The length of canal sections excavated amounted to more than 20 miles. Although the locks were old-fashioned and operated manually until the 1930s, as many as 13,000 vessels, with more than 1 million of tons of goods, used the canal in the best years. This is the castle of Viipuri, now on the Soviet side of the frontier. The canal passes by this castle on entry into the sea. Gabriel von Hartmann, a financial genius, Snellman, a reformer and philosopher, and Carl von Rosenkampf, a planner and constructor, were key figures when the 3.5-century-old idea of Erik Bjelke, master of the castle of Viipuri, came true. The canal proved an efficient servant for 3 generations. Did the war mean the end of the canal? No. When the guns were silenced, talk started. However, at the same time, people in Finland began to wonder whether a new canal should be constructed entirely on the Finnish side of the border, or was the canal an economic solution at all? The question of the canal furnished grounds for extensive debate. Some people were pessimistic, but others expressed their faith in the reconstruction of the old canal. During a visit made by President Kekkonen to Moscow in 1960, the Soviet Union stated that under the circumstances of neighborliness between the two countries, it would be willing to lease to Finland the part of the canal lost in the war. The canal agreement was signed, and Finland was given the right to use the canal over its full length for 50 years. The vote for agreement in Parliament was unanimous. The Canal Agreement represents a rare document in world politics. The pens of statesmen proved to be stronger than swords. George Piasecki, civil engineer, was a Soviet colleague of Urho Kirkas, governor of the province of Mikkeli, who had been appointed as Finnish canal delegate. The agreement stipulated that Finland had to construct the canal within 5 years. The National Board of Public Roads and Waterways in Finland started to put the plans into effect under the leadership of its Director General, Mr. Martti Niskala. The project was an enormous one, and the schedule was tight. Some old structures built in the 1930s could also be used in the new canal. Entirely new structures were built on the old foundations. In part, the route taken was straightened. Sections of the old canal remained to bear witness to technological progress. Construction of the new canal called for thorough ground surveys and meticulous planning. In parallel with the first excavations and blasting on the new route, the details of the project were formulated on drawing boards. The planners found that their greatest concern related to locks, lock gates, and equipment for traffic management. Tests with miniature models were necessary, in part for the study of the problems posed by ice. Canal traffic is cut off by winter every year. How long could the effect of winter be postponed? More than 150 different contracts were concluded with private firms. Contracts were entered into for excavation in earth and rock, dredging, the covering of slopes, concreting, the construction of lock gates, bascule bridges, and for the installation of machinery and electrical devices. It should be remembered that the ground is exceptionally hard in Finland. Excavating resembles a continuing battle between man and rock. More than 1,500 people took part in construction of the canal. The excavation of locks posed many difficult problems. Many old structures had to be torn down and removed to make way for the new canal. For the most part, excavated rock was crushed and reused, particularly as cover for the slopes of the canal banks. The new, third construction of the Saimaan Canal necessitated vast earth-moving operations. The overall volume of earth removal amounted to 12 million cubic meters. Since the war, Finland has joined the group of advanced industrializing countries, with exports which comprise both products and know-how. construction of the new canal offered a great challenge to Finnish civil engineering. Although the canal cannot be used the year through, work went on regardless of seasonal difficulties. Men and machines bored their way into the landscape and transformed it in the heat of summer, in the mud of autumn and spring, and in the snow and biting cold of winter. Work had to go on day and night. Civil engineers and workmen from the Soviet Union toiled at the other end of the canal. Contacts were good, both at work and at leisure. The structures built by the Russians at Viipuri at the southeast end of the canal included large road and rail bridges. The bridges have an overhead clearance of 82 feet. The approach route from the sea was dredged, and the Russians also erected equipment for safety and navigation. By the terms of the canal agreement, Finland also paid the costs of construction in the leased area. All the construction work was supervised by the Saimaan Canal Project Organization, a special body set up in Finland. The distance along the new canal between Lake Saimaa and the sea coast is about 31 miles. The height difference amounts to more than 246 feet. There are now only 8 locks in the canal. The locks can take vessels 256 feet in length, 36 feet in beam, 13 feet 10 inches in draft, and of a tonnage up to 1,600. The navigational season extends over about 7.5 months. The canal will prove economic if the volume transported rises to 1 million tons in a season, but the canal could cope with as much as 4.5 million tons in one season. One man, the lockmaster, operates the lock by a device in the control cabin. Here, lock gates are being installed. "13 bridges were put across the Saimaan Canal, 6 of them fixed and 7 of them moving. Railway lines had to be relocated, and 26 miles of new roads had to be laid. Pilot stations, the canal office, and attractive homes for the canal staff were completed recently. The canal is provided with illumination for the whole of its length, and the lake sections have an adequate system of signals. Radar can be used during passage along the canal. All the important points, both in the canal and at deep water channels, are linked by radio communications. The deep water channels of the lakes of Saimaan form an extension to the canal. These channels are more than 323 miles in length, while shallower extension channels have a combined length of 930 miles. Many inland lake harbors can now welcome merchant vessels from various European ports, provided that the boat dimensions comply with the stipulations laid down for what are called paragraph boats. Never before have the water routes of eastern Finland carried such large vessels all the way from the mouth of the canal at Lappeenranta up to the town of Joensuu, situated some hundreds of miles inland. In September 1968, Joensuu welcomed its first visitor from a faraway port. The construction of the Saimaan Canal was completed by the summer of 1968. A vital injection was administered to the economic life of eastern Finland, and the history of waterborne traffic in Europe had its most recent canal entered on its pages. The Saimaan Canal is important not only for transport. It passes through a Karelian landscape of great natural beauty and enters the heart of the most attractive lake area in Finland. The canal is becoming a highly popular tourist route. When President Kekkonen inaugurated the canal, he said, "This day means to us the realization of a great objective. May navigation and trade on the Saimaan Canal flourish. May it bring wealth and welfare to the economic area of eastern Finland and to the whole country. And may the cooperation in canal matters continue to strengthen the friendship between the peoples of Finland and those of the Soviet Union." In this country of 60,000 lakes, the questions posed in ensuring efficient and economic transport are of major importance. Waterways have a role to play, and will always have one.